Jermaine Griggs here, and welcome to the official tutorial for the Song Tutor software. Now, you immediately notice that we have a song preloaded for you. It is Amazing Grace, but if you've already downloaded additional files, you can either open them one of three ways. You can click the Open MIDI File button, and here it'll open a dialog box here, and you can just go pick the window. The window should be called Song Tutor Windows or maybe Song Tutor Mac, and it should be in your downloads folder. And if you click it and then you click again on the folder inside, you'll see a MIDI files folder here, and you can just click on that and you can choose individual songs here. And if you just double click on, let's say, this song, Anointing, which is one of our gospel songs, keep in mind we include gospel, jazz, and salsa. And I just click play. And so it plays that song. Now, another thing that you can do is you can set a folder. That's what this area does here. And if you have a bunch of MIDI files in that folder, then you don't have to worry about clicking this Open MIDI button each and every time. So you just click on the set folder icon here. And what I would actually do is go to that same MIDI folder, and you don't even have to click inside of it. You can if you want, but eventually you want to click Select Folder. So again, all I did, I went back to the same window. I clicked on MIDI file, and then I selected the folder, and watch what happens. All the files show up here. All 68 or 64 plus files, they show up here. And you can just double click on whatever you want. Like here's a jazz one. So that's the second way. The second way is by opening this little folder over here, and that will allow you to set a folder. Now, the third way to open files, actually there's four ways. I'll show you the fourth way soon. But you go to your browser, and we have a built-in Google search box. You can either search here, or you can always search from the upper right-hand corner. And you can just enter anything you want. For example, if I wanted to search for maybe a John Legend MIDI file, I can click John Legend, or rather type John Legend, and you always want to put MIDI file. You don't want to just put John Legend, or else that'll come up with all kinds of stuff, news, gossip, photos, but you want to be specific, and you want to put MIDI file at the end of whatever you're looking for. So you can type in specific songs, you can type in specific artists or groups, but you want to end with MIDI file, and then you just click enter. And notice that pages load right here. We have over 56,000 results, so you're sure to find what you're looking for. You can go to subsequent pages if you want, but I'm just going to scroll back to the top, John Legend, All of Me. So I'm going to click that MIDI file, and it's going to load here in the browser. I like the browser mode because it just allows you to freely use the internet and find different songs, type in different ideas, and see what's out there. And you may say, why would MIDI files be out there? Well, regular people like you and me produce MIDI files on their keyboard or in their favorite software like Logic or Pro Tools or what have you. And they just release the MIDI files out there on directories, and there's tons of directories. MIDI Zone is one of them. There's freemidi.org. There are tons of MIDI sites out there. And the great thing about it is that Song Tutor opens these files directly. You don't even have to download them now in the browser mode. You just hover over what you think is a link, and notice here it says verified MIDI file. So you can actually know what you're going to click on, because let's face it, some of these are ads. Like you can click on some things and it doesn't really take you to a MIDI file, or other things might be advertisements. But if you want to know if it's a MIDI file, and if you want to know if it's going to open in Song Tutor right away, just hover over it without clicking, and it's going to say either verified MIDI file. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't click on the link, because some links are just categories. For example, if I click this J, it is going to take me to another page, that I can see other artists and things like that. So, but when it comes down to downloading a specific MIDI file, and if you think you've gotten to the page you want and you want to download it, make sure the verified MIDI file shows up, because then that'll let you know that clicking it, as what I'm about to do, will actually play it. So maybe let's stick with this file and see all the different things that we can do with it. Now, the first thing that we can do is we can slow it down. And that's using the tempo bar here. And notice how we can get really slow. Now we're like 60. Now we're like 90%. Like this is the slowest. And that's where it's pretty much just holding the notes down for you. So use this tempo bar as you see fit. You can even go super fast if you wanted to, right? But if you want to go back to the regular tempo, you just go back to 100% there, and it'll be right there in the middle. Now, another thing we can do is we can change the key. Now, this MIDI file seems to be in the key of E flat. All right. But what if we wanted to learn it in another key? Now, I will tell you, not all MIDI files have major key information. So this might say by default C, but it may be in another key. But it's because the original maker of the file didn't put the key in the file. And that's like a special thing you have to do. This person did. So we see that the key is E flat major, right? Well, now we can change it down. What if we want to learn it in D major? Right? So that's D major. Here's D flat major. C major. So you notice it goes back to C. All right, so you can just mess around with this and you can go down keys, you can go up keys. Now another feature is called single step, and you don't even have to play the file. You can just go through each chord in whatever key you've chosen, right? And you just press the left and right arrow, and this allows you to just freeze the chords, literally, like each thing that's going on. Now, this song happens to have a bunch of different tracks, but most of the songs that we include just have one track. And I'll show you how to use this later. But single step is very convenient when you just don't want to miss a beat. So when we're talking about jazz solos and maybe some of the fast salsa syncopations and things like that, where you can just step through each step. And look at how many steps. There's like hundreds of steps in this song, and you just click through them, and then you can write down the chords or use them with our other program, Instant Transposer, or what have you. But this is a very convenient feature here. Of course, you can rewind it, fast forward it, and another feature is the loop mode, right? Say I just want to focus on a certain part. I can activate the loop. Notice by activating the loop, you get this little loop bars, if you will, in and out points. And all you have to do is drag them to wherever you want. So we can like do this beginning section and then put our cursor in the middle of it and then just press play. And it will just repeat, you see? And then you just repeat that part. Obviously, you can do all the other features, like slow it down. So very convenient. You can use these things side by side. You can use the looping, you can use the tempo bar, and of course you can do the single step, right? So we use the browser, and that's the third way. Now, if you actually go back to this MIDI here and you go to shared, that's the fourth way. And these are just files that other members have shared. Now, be careful here. You want to share your own music or music that you have control over. But you can do that here. Once you have a MIDI file open and you actually want to share it with others, if you just want to look through the shared folders, and as we get more members, these will obviously add up and there'll be tons of files inside of there. But when you're ready to upload a file, say you're ready to upload this file here, you can just pick the category and then you can rename it. You could pick the key and then you click upload. Let's talk about this area here. Files is obviously where all the files from the folder that you've set will appear. Recent will be all the files that you've opened, whether you've opened them in your computer, whether you've opened them through this listing, whether you've opened them through the browser, like we did the John Legend file. It will show up here, the key, the length of the file, and the size of the file. Of course, the shared folder is where you can go find other files, right? Here are just some random files. And this works kind of like your computer. It has a back button that'll take you back to the beginning. For example, if you click on scales and you go here, or if you press back, it'll take you back to the previous, or home will just always take you back. Now, we'll expand these folders over time, and we'll add more categories and things as we see more users around the world using this upload feature. So this will be pretty cool. And make sure when you upload, it's a file that you've opened on your computer or you've opened through the browser here. Or the file listing here. And then once it's selected, for example, if I select ballot and then I click upload, that song will be selected and ready for me to upload. Links just has some, tutorials, other resources, and also access to the 64 bonus MIDI files, which opens through your browser, and you can just click immediately on the 64 file. So this is in lieu of actually having to open it on your computer. So either way, whatever you like. But if you, for example, installed this on a new computer, and for example, you didn't have the MIDI files, well, we have all 64 listed here for you, and you can just always click on links to go find them. So we've covered files, recent, shared, links, set folder, how to open a MIDI file. Say you want to save a MIDI file. Maybe you want to save it in a new key, or the key was wrong and you want to update it, or it's a MIDI file that you've opened on the internet, right? Maybe that John Legend file. Well, you can also save it to your computer here and in any location that you want. So that's a pretty convenient feature. And again, if you want to change the key, which is displayed for the MIDI file, like if you think it's in the key of E flat, you can go there, put E flat major or minor, whether you want to use flats or sharps or just the default of the key. E flat happens to be a flat key, so it'll just show, flats if you use default, but you can also force it to use flats or sharps, and that will appear down here. Now, another cool feature is the split point, right? You can choose, and you do that by clicking split and then choosing a note. Clicking split, choosing a note. And all that does is lets your left hand, right, wherever the split is, to the left of that will show in one color, and to the right of that will show in another color. Now, it's impossible with MIDI files to know where the left hand really is. Now, on some files, it shows the left hand separately from the right hand. So if we actually go back to that John Legend file, you'll notice that it does have a couple tracks here. And I don't know why there's so many bright pianos, but if we notice, these two and these two are lit. So if we wanted to, notice that as you hover over each track, now depending on the MIDI file, it could have up to 16 tracks. Usually these are for different instruments, but sometimes you notice like multiple piano tracks. And I don't know if that's the original creator letting you know the left hand from the right hand. Sometimes you see that. That literally means they recorded their left hand separately, their right hand separately, and they did them as separate tracks. But we allow you to separate the colors of each track. So I could put, track 2 in green, and I could put this track in orange, and that track in blue, and this track in yellow. And let's see how that looks. So obviously that's this track here, all on the same track. All right. We can add a track. So you can see that this track is involved as well. So I see these two tracks. So you can just kind of see the tracks involved, and you can, if, for example, if there's a saxophone and you want the saxophone to be a certain color, you can just choose that color. So it's pretty cool. Now, remember the split point here? Well, you can also control what colors show up on the left. So if you don't like red on the left and blue on the right, you can change that around, and you simply do that from the preferences bar here. Now, the welcome pop-up that shows up with this tutorial, if you don't want it to keep showing up, just come over here and uncheck this box, and the next time you open the program, it won't show up at all. Now, another cool thing is we allow you to remove pauses from MIDI files. Now, this is more applicable when we release like a MIDI file of maybe one of our live workshops, like a 2-hour workshop, and there's talking and playing, talking and playing. Well, in the past, we would release these MIDI files and you kind of just had to scrub through the silence. It could be 10 minutes of silence and then playing, and then 2 minutes of silence and then playing. Well, if you ever come across one of those files, and we have them here, if I actually set a new folder and I go to my downloads folder, you can see what I'm talking about. I'll go down to our MIDI folder here and I'll select that. And in the past, notice these files are long, 113 minutes. That's almost 2 hours. You know, this is like over 2 hours, right? And all you gotta do is like click on one of these long files if you ever get any of these. And notice some of the gaps are here. And you go to preferences once you've opened it, and then you just go remove all pauses. And what it will literally do is remove the pauses, and it'll give you a fresh file with no pauses in it. Notice there's no pauses. And from there, you can just play it full of meat, you know. So I would advocate, you know, recording MIDI. There are apps now where you can record MIDI on your iPhone. You can connect keyboards to your iPhone now, and you can record someone playing during an entire church service. I mean, like 2 hours worth of playing. There will be gaps and silences, but then you can open it here in Song Tutor, take away the pauses, right? And this is the minimum pause, which means it will only remove things that are longer than 5 seconds. You know, now you don't want to do like 1 second. That could be a natural pause, but it'll show up here. And then when you want to save the new file, you just go save, and I can call this shorter. Right? And now it will appear on my list, right, as shorter. There it is. And that's a much shorter file, 34 minutes as opposed to 52 minutes. And that's all meat. So that's a pretty cool thing. Now here you want to make sure you put in your license key and unlock. You never have to do that again. And down here, notice that this keyboard can detach and you can make it as big as you want. So maybe you've connected a HD TV. I mean, this goes all the way across my screen. I have multiple screens and it goes all the way across. So this can get really huge so that you never miss a beat. If you've got like a school or you've got an audience, you can, you know, show them certain files and make it as big as you want in HD high quality. So that's how that works. Now, when we get multiple instruments, let me go to a file that has maybe like multiple instruments involved. And here's a file, Ain't Nobody by Shaka Khan, right? And notice it has like piano. And it remembered all my different colors, right? Because I remember setting all the different colors here. Right now, these buttons stand for mute, and you can always hover over any button, and we have little instructions here that show you what to do. But this stands for mute, solo, and keyboard, right? Everything by default shows up on the keyboard, but say you don't want a certain instrument to show up. Say, you know, I don't want the drums to show up because it's too much going on. Well, here's the drums here, and notice I'm going to make them purple, but if I turn the keyboard off, they don't show up, right? This guitar here happens to be purple too. I'm going to change it to orange. So we don't have anything purple showing up. We don't have anything purple showing up because I've removed the drums by removing the K. Now I can still hear it, right? Because I didn't mute it. Now, if I want to actually mute the drums as well, I click M, right? So let's see how that does. Right? That muted the drums. Like if I want to solo, that's what this S means. That means I just want to hear that instrument or multiple instruments. Like if I only want to hear the piano, for example, I can solo. Of course, I can slow that down. So now I've got just the piano. And that's what solo does, right? I can solo multiple instruments. Maybe I want to solo piano and the bass. So I'll just push S on the synth bass as well, and I can do both of those. So that's extremely helpful. And when I'm ready to go back to allowing all instruments, just remove the solo. Again, so M is mute. That's to mute that track or multiple tracks. S is the solo. That means just to show that track or multiple tracks. And K, right? K will show the track. As long as it's not muted, it will show that track on the virtual keyboard. And of course, you can pick the multiple colors and things like that. And that makes it just drop dead easy to learn the specific parts that you want to learn. Of course, you've got a volume control here. You have the ability to drag your cursor to any place in the song. Now, you can't click. You have to click on the cursor and actually drag it. And you've got the browser. And remember, whenever you find a MIDI file, you can search up here. You can search from up here. But when you've actually found a real MIDI file, it will say verified MIDI file. That doesn't mean not to click other links. Like I said, search the internet like normal. This is the first internet-powered song learning system. So it'll support you accessing whatever you want on the internet. But when it comes down to clicking on a file, a MIDI file at that, just click it and it should open in the program. It'll say playing right here. One more thing with the single step mode, it's set automatically to group chords. But if you actually want to show separate notes one by one, uncheck that and every note will be broken up. This might be good for like a solo, or maybe a solo is so fast that you find that the program is detecting it as chords and you know they're not chords. You can always turn off this group mode. It says choose whether to group chords or play single notes one at a time. There may be some applications where you want to just turn that off, like a super fast solo, and you know that you only want one note at a time. Or maybe something classical that has a lot of arpeggios in it, but you notice the program is detecting those arpeggios in single step mode as chords and you want them to be separate notes. So just keep in mind you have that opportunity to do that as well. But when you have a lot of instruments, this may not make sense like that because it's going to go through each and every single note of each of those instruments. So just keep that in mind. And that's pretty much the entire program. Between all the different sections, I think we've covered everything. If you have any further questions, I invite you to email us at help@hearandplay.com and we'll get back to you shortly. help@hearandplay.com. Otherwise, enjoy this powerful tool. This is the most revolutionary, most innovative tool of its sort. With the power of the internet, you can truly unlock the vast resources out there and learn pretty much anything you want. Solos, songs, improvisation, anything, pastime tunes that you've always loved. If it's on Google and if you can find it, you can open it in Song Tutor. So I'm Jermaine Griggs signing off. And remember, if you can hear it, you can play it.